Today I'm going to be surviving 100 days in Minecraft Zombie Edition. My goal is to build the best base and conquer the apocalypse. Let's go. To start day 1, I had to become familiar with what I spawned in with, like a quest book, plaster, torch, purified water, bread, and an improvised hammer. Since it was daytime, nothing scary was going on, so I was able to loot this place pretty easily. I had to take a peek at the quest book and claim all the free quests, which ended up giving me a free set of leather armor. I finished up by looting the rest of the house and then making my way to the other ones. In the other ones, I did the same and kept looting. I found a nearby gas station, which was pretty cool. I had to leave the suburbs for better loot, so I entered the high-rise office district. The heat was starting to catch up to me, and I felt it bad. However, when I started to try to run away, I got shot at, and I had to run. I ended up having to hide in a building, and then I drank some water to try to cool off. I decided that the high-rise office district was too difficult to survive in, so I decided to make my way to the suburbs. I spent the rest of day 1 looting and getting used to the game mechanics. My new goal is going to be to finish all of tier 1 before day 5, and with that came the end of day 1. At the start of day 2, I decided to get to work immediately. My first objective was to make a leather backpack. While I was looting a house, I found some nice boots called anarchy boots. However, right when I left the house, I found my first pair of zombies. After that was taken care of, I continued my mission of getting the leather backpack. Luckily, in a house I found some leather and some string. I then collected a chest from a nearby house. I wasn't able to find a crafting table in time and decided to head to bed. At the start of the 3rd day, I continued my quest to get the leather backpack. I went around searching every house for any materials I could find to make the backpack. And luckily, the first house I went into had the backpack in a crate. I then barely escaped the house to go work on my next quest. The next quest was really easy. All I had to do was press the check mark and collect my rewards. The next thing I had to do was make a canteen, so I could hold some water and survive the zombie apocalypse. Luckily, I already gathered all the materials to make the canteen. All I was missing was the crafting table. And now with the crafting table done, I crafted the canteen. After claiming my reward, I moved on to the next task. Luckily, for the next task, all I had to do was press the check mark, and I claimed my reward. The next task was easy as well, the same thing, but this time it gave me cold and warm string. To explain it simply, warm string keeps me warm when it's cold, and cold string keeps me cold when it's warm. So now, when I enter the high-rise district, I won't burn up so much. I decided on crafting some cold string, so I'd be able to move on to the next area, and then, with that, I placed it on my armor. And since it was getting dark, I had to find a place to sleep, and then end day 3. At the start of day 4, I went to go look for some more cold string so I could go to the next area. I decided that the best way to get this string is to go fight the horde at the hospital. Fighting off the horde was super hard and I had many close calls. In the end, however, I defeated the horde and made my way into the hospital. In one of the back rooms, I found a chest that had warm and cold string and a crystal heart, which raised my max hearts from 22 to 24. After defeating the horde, I was able to purchase some skill points that I put into melee damage. After that, I collected my quest, which gave me 3 iron ingots, and ended day 4. At the start of day 5, I made my way out to go loot some more, and ended up finding a police headquarters. I had to fight off the horde in order to get inside, which took a little while, but the reward was worth it. Once I was inside, I searched one of the police lockers and found a gun. I made my way through the rest of the police headquarters with my gun, making sure that every zombie was dealt with. I ended up speaking with the police captain lady and she gave me a quest to go save some survivors. However, it was getting dark, so I made my way to go find a bed. Once I found a bed, I ended off day 5. I used the whole of day 6 to loot up and make a fresh set of leather armor. I also made sure to craft the cooling strings in order to cool me down when I make it to the office district. And at the end of day 6, I had my full set of leather armor with all the cooling abilities. So I'm ready to go to the office district on day 7. Right when I woke up, I made my way to the office district. When I made it there, I began to look for some buildings to start looting. I ended up entering this one office and fighting off the zombie horde inside. I luckily ended up finding a secret room behind a door. Inside were a couple of zombies that I had to fight off. Once the zombies were dealt with, I kept looting the room. Behind a locked door, I found another secret room. Inside one of the safes, I found a panic necklace, which gives me a speed boost after taking damage. After looting that room, I decided to leave the building and find a place to make a base. After looking around for a while, I settled on this one building. In order to keep me safe, I had to clear out the whole building of zombies. With that done, I placed my bed down and prepared for day 8. I dedicated this whole day to gathering materials for my base. I gathered anything I could find from any of the buildings around me. Once I was done, I had to take down everything inside that little room. With that done, I began the building process.
2 hours later.
After a little while, I used all the materials to make a living room, storage room, and a bedroom. I also made sure to add a little bit of decoration. For my next quest, I need to use the create mod in order to complete them. I placed down what I had so far and ended off the day. Days 9 and 10 were spent looting and getting the materials to finish this quest. I also ended up finding another revolver to add to my arsenal. After all the materials were gathered, I went to bed and started day 11. On day 11, I began making the machine to make some better armor. And the machine is done. Now that we have the machine, we can start to make some chainmail armor. First, I made some wire cutters, and then I cut some iron to make some iron wire. I also had to use the machine to make some templates for the armor. I had to run the machine a couple times in order to complete the template. And now that that's done, we can start making our chainmail armor. And the chainmail armor is done. I then decided to end the day, but I had to take my bed upstairs due to all the zombies outside. At the start of day 12, I saw in my quest book that I had to go to the hotel district. I also needed to get a steel ingot to progress in the quest book. So I began the journey to the hotel district. On the way there, I found another survivor, but he wasn't very friendly. After that was dealt with, I continued my journey. After looking around for a while, I finally found the hotel district and made my way inside. I stopped at the first building in hopes of finding a steel ingot or some better loot to help my survival. After looting for a while, I used my skill points in order to advance in the skill tree and become stronger. I then fought my way out of the building and found a different place to start looting. I worked my way through the zombies, making sure to take out any spawners and looting all the chests. In one of the chests, I found an awesome weapon that would make sure to take out any zombies in my way. It was getting dark, so I made sure to find a bed and end day 12. At the start of the next day, I continued looting in order to find that steel ingot and progress in the quest book. I also found a pretty cool clothing store which I looted up. I also made sure to grab this pretty awesome statue to put in my base. I kept looting buildings as usual, trying to look for the steel ingot. Luckily on the second floor though, I found just what I needed, 2 steel ingots. The rest of the day was pretty routine. I just kept looting different buildings and exploring some more of the hotel district. Once it turned nighttime, I decided to end off day 13. Day 14 was pretty uneventful and I just continued looting in the hotel district. I ended off day 14 fully ready to head back to base. Right at the start of day 15, I made my way back to base. Right when I made it back to base, I decided to place down the statue I found in the clothing store. It looked pretty nice. After that, I checked the quest book to see what the next thing to do was. I decided that making a plane was the best thing to do as walking everywhere was pretty dangerous. My first thing I needed to do was make an engine, which requires a spout, so I needed to go find some copper and some dried seaweed. First, I decided to go find the copper. All I had to do was loot a couple buildings and then I would find some copper. After getting the copper, I had to go get some logs to make the copper casing. I also had to make an axe in order to strip the log. And once I placed the copper, the casing was done. A bunch of zombies started gathering outside my house, so I had to take care of them in order to leave. And done. Before going to get the seaweed, I decided to stop in this massive building in order to get some good loot. I was starting to get overwhelmed, so I made my way up in order to escape the zombie horde. Once I made it up, a bunch of zombies started gathering that I had to take out in order to loot the place. I tried to fight them off, but there was too many to handle, so I ended up leaving. And with that came the end of day 15. At the start of day 16, I went to go get the kelp to make the copper spout. There was a nearby water source, so I went to go look there. Luckily, I found it pretty easily and gathered it all. Once I was back at base, I smelted one piece because that's all I needed for the spout. And with that, the spout was done. I also had to make some redstone acid to put inside the spout, which wasn't really difficult to make. I then made some room for the copper spout by getting rid of some of the couches I put around. And with that, it was done. I had to make a piping system in order to get the redstone acid inside the spout. It took me all of day 16 to finish this machine, but all I had to do was place some water and it was done. Now, when I placed the redstone acid in the pool, it would get sucked up. And with that done, I could start making the engine. But I had to end the day. It took me 2 days to make the engine as I had to loot up many buildings to get the materials. After getting all the materials, I began construction of the engine. It turns out I also needed a mechanical saw, which I crafted pretty easily. After adding the finishing touches, the engine was done. And with that, I ended day 18. At the start of day 19, I checked what it takes to make a biplane, and it turns out I need a massive crafting machine. So I decided to expand my base. It took about 5 days, but the result was worth it. And the crafting system is done. All I had to do was clear out the top area of my base, and then start to build a contraption. From there, I ended off day 25 and started day 26. At the start of day 26, I decided to take a break from building and start taking on the bosses in the game. The first boss was one called the Pregnant. After fixing up my armor, I decided to go out and go fight the Pregnant. I also made sure to level up my character in order to make this boss fight as easy as possible. After searching around all day, I found him with a horde of zombies, and the boss fight was pretty difficult. And the Pregnant has been defeated. And with the death of the Pregnant, that ends off day 26. The next boss I had to fight was called the Lurker, so at the start of day 27 I began my journey to find him. I stopped by a hospital to get some heals for the fight. After looting a couple buildings for some ammo for my weapon, I ended up finding him through the window. And so the fight began. I started off by getting some good shots on the Lurker. He started to get some good hits on me, so I had to run. I made it to a nearby building, so I looted it up in order to get back in the fight. Inside one of the lockers on the top floor, there was a pistol that could help me get some good damage on the Lurker. Once I left the building, I began getting some good hits on it. Luckily, while it chased me, it got wedged in between two buildings, so I was able to get some free hits in. And the Lurker was defeated. After that, I made my way back to base and ended off day 27. With the armor templates that the Lurker gave me, I could make some better armor, but all I was missing was some steel. So I repaired my chainmail armor and made my way to the hotel district. Once I made it there, it got pretty dark, so I went into a building and found a place to sleep. At the start of the next day, I began looting the area in order to find some steel ingots. After looting for the whole day, I ended up finding all the steel ingots I needed, so I ended off day 28. Right at the start of day 29, I made my way to go craft the steel armor. I had to mold the steel ingots into the pieces that I needed to make the armor, but after that was done, I began crafting the steel armor. And after all that crafting, the steel armor was done. I decided to get back to working on the plane and I needed some aluminum to make the propeller. I decided that the best way to get the aluminum was to take on a horde building. Once the horde was defeated, I went to go loot up the chests. After getting all the aluminum I needed, I ended off day 29. Right at the start of day 30, I went to go craft the plane. I began by making the propeller, then the hull, and then lastly, the gears. And with all that, I began assembling the airplane. After making the airplane though, my next objective was to make a runway. I decided that the best place to make the runway was on the roof of my building. However, I also had to make an elevator from the bottom to the top since the way up there was pretty annoying. Making both the runway and the elevator took about 8 days, but this was the final result. I placed the elevator in the back of the house so it's easy access, and at the top is the runway. For the runway, all I had to do was extend out the roof, and it works pretty well. I did a test flight with the airplane and it works just as I wanted to. It's going to be perfect for taking me long distances. After all that building, I decided that the next best thing was to take out the next boss, the glitter. So I left my base to go find it. While I was looking for it, it ended up finding me and attacking me, so I had to start attacking back. And with that last shot, the glitter was done for. Since it was getting dark, I made my way back to base and ended off day 38. Right at the start of day 39, I decided to make a gunsmith table. All I had to do was gather some logs and get some iron. After getting everything, I crafted the gunsmith table. I had to clear out the 3rd floor in order to make a room for my gunsmith table. Next up, I had to make the ammo assembly table in order to make some ammo, which needed some aluminum. I then set out to go get some aluminum by going mining. While I was down there, I decided to get some iron, copper, and the aluminum. After getting all the ores, I upgraded my mining stats and left the cave. Once I got out, it was pretty dark, so I decided to end off day 39. At the start of day 40, I finished off making the ammo assembly table. I then placed it down right next to the gun table and saw what it took to make some ammo. In order to fight the next boss, I wanted to make some ammo for my weapon. However, I needed to make a metal press to make the bullet casings, so I needed a lot of steel. I decided to make my way to the hotel district, which had some steel to be looted. When I made it to the hotel district, I found a place to land and went to go loot. It took me about 6 days in order to get all the steel I needed. I had to fight off waves of zombies and loot all the chests I could find. However, in the end I got all the steel I needed. On the morning of day 46, I boarded my plane and made my way back to base. Once I made it back to my base, I quickly went to go make the metal press. When I finished making all the pieces, I began assembling the metal press. And with one click, the metal press was done. After that, I ended off day 46. Right at the start of day 47, I went to go craft some ammo so I could take on the next boss. First, with the metal press, I had to make some casings. Then I had to turn some gunpowder into a pinch of gunpowder, and I assembled the ammo. With all the ammo done, I went to go take on the next boss, the bigger suck. When I was looking for it, it started coming towards me super fast, so I began shooting my gun. When I tried to get a better angle, it started coming towards me and it got some hits on, so I had to run into a building. I went to the highest floor of a building in order to shoot down on it, but then it started charging at me and got stuck in the window. Now that it got stuck in the window, I was able to get some cheap shots in and finally kill the boss. And with that done, I made my way back to base and ended off day 47. I started off day 48 by leveling up my character. I also repaired my armor and made some ammo to take out the next boss. While I was looking for it, it ended up attacking me from behind. I ended up getting some good shots on it, getting his health lower. My strategy was to run away and shoot the boss, but when that wasn't working that well, I decided to go into a building and get it stuck. Once I got it low, a couple swings of my knife ended up taking it out. The rest of day 48 was pretty uneventful, so when nighttime hit, I went straight to bed. I spent the whole of day 49 clearing out a horde and looting the chests. At the start of day 50, I decided to fix up my stairs. Every time I tried to go upstairs or downstairs, I kept falling down, so I had to fix them. After fixing them up, the stairs ended up like this. The next part I'm going to be rebuilding is the bedroom. Rebuilding the bedroom took about 4 days as I had to clear out the whole room, gather supplies for the decorations, and then place the decorations. But with all that, the room was done. At the start of day 56, I decided to work on getting a car. My first move was to get some gasoline, so I made my way to the nearest gas station. After walking for a bit, I ended up finding one. Inside the gas station, I found a chest that had the gas. After filling it up, I went to go find the nearest car. I came across a motorcycle and decided to stick with it. After pumping the gas, I was on the road. The rest of day 56 was pretty uneventful, so I went to bed and started day 57. On day 57, I wanted to go explore the retail district, but I had to get some better armor first, so I set out to go find a horde building. Luckily, nearby my base was the casino building. To get started, I got the high ground and started taking out a little bit of the horde. But once I made it inside, I got overwhelmed really quickly. Once I found an opening, I ran away into a better spot. Taking out the horde took about 4 days, so enjoy the killing montage. On the night of day 61, the horde was defeated, so I could begin looting. The casino was massive and looting it took a bit of time. However, the building was really awesome, and it had a bunch of cool rooms. I decided that the best way to finish looting was going to the very top, and man, it was high. Wow, just look at that view. While I was up there, I looted the boss's headquarters and got some pretty nice loot. After everything was looted, I made my way back to base. Right when I made it back, I went to go repair my armor. And done. After that, I went to go add a new decoration to my bedroom and decided to work on a new storage room. And with the chest placed down and the lights, my storage room was done. So then I went to go put everything into the chests. While putting my things away, I realized I never used the survivor radar, so I went to go find a survivor. It turns out the survivor was inside a horde building, but luckily he was in a bunker, so I went to go speak with him. What he wanted me to do was go take out some bombers and he would give me access to his locker. So I left and went to go take on the horde. And in the morning of day 64, the horde was defeated. After defeating the horde, I went to go loot and heal up, and then I went to go speak to the survivor. Since I defeated a couple bombers in the horde, he let me have access to his locker, which had some good stuff. After testing if the weapon was any good, I made my way back to base. I spent the next 4 days making a cool room above my bedroom, and this is how it turned out. In my opinion, this room turned out amazing. The pool looks very nice and the table with the little plushie looks awesome. I can also shoot at zombies from up here, but I probably won't be doing that. And with that, I ended off day 68. I spent days 69 and 70 looting to prepare to fight the mini bosses over the next couple days. At the start of day 71, I began looking for my first mini boss. I ended up looting a couple buildings on the way, and once it was nighttime, I ended up finding him. He started running at me super quick, so I decided to create some distance and get some shots in. I also ran into a horde which almost became a problem, but I got away easily. Once I got away, I turned my back and I ended off the mini boss. And with that, I ended off day 71. Day 72 started the same way as day 71, with me looting buildings and in the night, fighting the mini boss. The first mini boss I found was some kind of skeleton. However, with a couple of shots, he went down pretty easily. Since the mini boss was pretty easy, I went to go find another one to go fight for the night, which luckily wasn't too hard to find. This mini boss was more difficult than the first one. However, with a couple of shots, he still went down. And with that, I ended off day 72. Day 73 was also spent fighting a mini boss, but this one was more difficult than I expected. I started off by getting some easy shots from the high ground, but I decided to move down in order to get some headshots. But then it ended up charging at me, so I began running away and getting some shots in. Since my gun wasn't doing enough damage, I decided to go melee for this one. And with one more hit, the boss was done. However, the horde was starting to get to me, so I ran away. Once I made it back to base, I ended off day 73. At the start of day 74, I decided to finish off the last room in my base. First, I had to take out the bandit that was inside, and then I began clearing out the room. Clearing out the room was easy, but finishing the project took about 5 days as I had to gather a lot of blocks. And in the morning of day 79, the project was finished. I ended up building a staircase that led from the top of my base to the bottom so I could drive my car up and down. With that done, I decided to explore the high-rise residential area, so I took off with my motorcycle. After riding around the whole day, I ended up finding the high-rise residential area. Since it was getting dark, I decided to stop exploring and find a bed. After getting past the zombie guarding the stairs, I ended up finding a bed. On the morning of day 80, I rushed to go explore the residential area. Once I went outside, there was a bunch of zombies and bandits, so I had to run away. After running away, I found a building that I began to loot. I found a knife, which was pretty cool. And a plushie for my base. After walking around the city, I found a massive building, which I decided to explore the next day. On the morning of day 81, I went straight to the massive building. I had to clear out the horde before getting inside and being able to loot chests. This process took about 2 days, but on the night of day 83, I finished off the horde. With that done, I could begin looting the whole building. I started off in the bottom floors, making sure to get every piece of loot I needed. I then went up to the next floors and repeated the same process. Looting this building took about 7 days, as all the floors and all the rooms added up, making this journey a long one. But in the early morning of day 90, I made it to the top floors. In the top floors, there was many different rooms that I began looting, and I also found an NPC. After looting up the top floor, I made my way to the roof. The view from up there was amazing. All you could see was the clouds. Before leaving, I decided to take an extra day to clean up the last bits of loot and make sure I left nothing behind. And on the morning of day 91, I decided to leave the residential area. And after a day's worth of traveling, I placed down my new plushie and went to bed. For the last 8 days I decided to expand my base, so enjoy this building montage. And with this last table, the expansion is done. On the morning of the big day 100, I decided to give one last tour of the base. On the bottom floor was all the machinery and the storage room. Then by taking the elevator all the way to the top, you make it to the runway. The floor underneath my runway is my garage, with my purple motorcycle inside. Underneath that is the pool balcony with my armadillo plushie. My bedroom is going to be the last room as it has the new expansion in it. But underneath my bedroom is the ammo machinery. And now for the bedroom. And lastly, the expansion. The expansion I made is a nice little hangout room with a kitchen, bookshelf, and a statue. And with that came the end of the 100-day challenge. Playing this mod pack was great fun and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments which one you guys want to see me play next.